Who's better? Yep, who's better? Biden or Trump? So, better, what do we mean better? Obviously, this channel is about the conflict in Artsakh, also called Nagorno-Karabakh. And so, but we can't ignore what else is going on in the world. In particular, most of this audience is Americans, maybe a few Canadians and UK citizens. But the biggest thing going on in the world, in our world right now, is an election coming up. And so what will be better for this part of the world as of November 3rd? Right, we have a huge decision to make. The incumbent president, Donald J. Trump, or the challenger, former Vice President Joe Biden. Well, according to this headline, Biden campaign criticizes both Azerbaijan and Armenia in statement on war. This was October 14th, 2020. Real quickly, the Trump administration must tell Azerbaijan that it will not tolerate its efforts to impose a military solution to this conflict, said Biden. Well, what's Donald Trump doing? According to The Hill, and this is from a little over a week ago, October 10th, Trump's silence on Nagorno-Karabakh weighs on Armenian and American voters. Okay, is that true? Is Trump remaining silent? Is Biden the guy? Who's better? All right, before I continue on, subscribe. This is going to be a series, Who's Better series, Trump or Biden. And I don't know if I'll do this series all the way up until the election or if we'll have resolved it within a week. But I'm going to dive into these headlines and some of the past regarding this conflict and let you come to your own conclusion. Maybe I'll come to, I think I've come to a conclusion, but I don't know. I want to present both sides of this because that's good journalism. You got to look at both sides. But before I do that, subscribe. I need to remind you all to subscribe to this channel. You're not going to get these updates. This is a series that I'm going to put out every day. I'm going to be posting every day except Sundays. But also this specific series, I don't know how long it's going to go. It'll at least go up to the end of this week, but perhaps all the way till November 3rd. But you need to subscribe and share and get the word out because the point of this channel, I've concluded that the best resolution to stop this conflict is for the United States to step in, but perhaps not in the way a lot of people would surmise. I think the best outcome is for the United States to recognize Artsakh, Nagorno-Karabakh, or Artsakh, the Armenian term for it, as a sovereign nation. All right, let me just go through the overview of this conflict. This article here from Yahoo News, I'm not going to read this article, but there's some pictures and a map that I want to get to, but let me just read the headline. Karabakh rivals trade accusations of breaking new truce. So there have been two ceasefires called already. The first one being a week ago and the second one being this past weekend. This article is from yesterday, so Sunday. This is pictures of the Armenian front, soldiers and blasts. But this is the map that I want to kind of, for you to wrap your head around this. If you're watching this and you have no idea what's really going on and what part of the world this is, I want to, repetition is the mother of learning. If you already listened to me a little bit on this on the other channel or in the previous episode, you're starting to wrap your head around it. And I've got the picture right above me here that's the region we're talking about. But let's zoom out with this map. What is involved here? We've got some major world players surrounding this region. So if you see, Armenia and Azerbaijan are both colored yellow here, which was an interesting choice. This map, I don't know who created it, AFP or whatever, why they would color both of them the same color, I'm not sure. I'm sure Azerbaijan would be happy with that to eliminate Armenia. And some would say Armenia would like to eliminate Azerbaijan, but I haven't seen that in any of the news. That's not the aim. What we're talking about is this small region here colored red. That's right above me here. That's red and blue. So the blue above me is the original. I think the Soviets outlined this section as kind of a little autonomous region. I'll eventually get more into that. But the blue area is Nagorno-Karabakh. But in the past 30 years or so, with the conflict after the fall of the Soviet Union, the red area has become occupied and controlled by Armenian forces as well. So back to this map, that whole region is the blue and red combined right here. And this is what's being fought over. This is the territory legally, I guess, within the territory of Azerbaijan, but it is controlled, as I said, by Armenians. And it's been ethnically Armenian for, millennia or centuries, certainly for decades. 90%, the lowest Armenian population there was maybe 75%, but it's just a bunch of people living in a place. Wherever you live, and you get along, you build your house and you start your business or you have a family, and that's where they are. It just happens to be within the country of Azerbaijan. Now, Azerbaijan doesn't like that there's Armenians there, and they're trying to push them off. In other words, take those settlements and get rid of those people, whether by force. Well, by force is what they're doing now. There's no negotiation that's going to get these people off their land. Anyway, I want to talk about the bigger players. This is going to be a long video if I don't get straight to it. So look, we got Russia right there, and then Turkey and Iran. This is Iraq, Syria. Over here is Egypt, Israel. In the insert here, you can see India is very close off to the east, and then China right over there. So the biggest players in the world. The United States is way on the other side of the world. But you got the biggest players in the world involved here. And some are saying Russia is on the side of Armenia, and Iran is on the side of Armenia, and Turkey's on the side of Azerbaijan. The facts are Turkey is definitely on the side of Azerbaijan. Russia, this used to be Russia, the former Soviet Union. These were Soviet states, so all of this was a part of Russia, and Russia has relationships with both of these countries. Even though they supply munitions to Armenia, you can't say they're really on a side. They'd rather, I think they kind of like the fact that there's turmoil here. It keeps the attention off of them. And now Iran is also an ally of Armenia. So what's Iran's role in the Armenia-Azerbaijan clash? So this article, and again, I post all these links to all these articles in the description below. I'm just going to read this one little subhead. Iran seems to be quietly backing Armenia in the conflict. All right, quietly backing. What does that mean? I've read through this article, and it looks like they're on both sides as well. I mean, Iran. What role does Iran, a Shia Muslim majority country like Azerbaijan, which neighbors both countries, have? Experts with a close eye on the conflict think Iran is secretly backing Armenia, a Christian majority country. So, again, I think Iran's probably more like Russia because Iran and Russia are allies. And so I don't know that Iran really is on Armenia's side. But if being on Armenia's side gets you leverage against Azerbaijan, because there's always issues with these countries over there, and they're gonna leverage their alliances against others for whatever reason. So it's a big mess. Now Turkey is a kind of in the middle of all of this. If you know what I've been working on for the past 3 years of my life, Turkey and Armenia have been at the forefront of everything that I think about and do. And so being American and having been to both of these countries, Armenia and Turkey in researching the Armenian genocide, which Turkey denies to this day and the United States has yet to recognize actually happened. This is a very complex situation. And people say the main difficulty for the United States is, Turkey is a NATO ally, and it's our biggest ally in that part of the world, and we have military bases. So these are the two. This is like militarybases.com, and Incirlik, I think that's how you pronounce it. Incirlik is one base. That's this one right here. And then the other one is Izmir Air Force Base. It's over here. So this is Greece. This is a great spot for Eastern Europe to have. And then down here is obviously Israel and Syria, and, hot spots over here. So having an air base here is definitely a strategic place. But heck, we could put an air base in Armenia. That'd be a great spot, I think. So I'm just giving you an overview of why this is such a cluster. I won't use the expletive, but it's definitely a cluster mess. Now I want to move on to another very complex player, or something else that adds to the mix that makes this even more complex. As Armenia and Azerbaijan clash, where will China stand? So we can't leave out the second biggest nation on the planet. Well, population-wise, the biggest, but as far as economy and influence on the planet, the United States is number one, but China is number two. And China doesn't like being number two. Well, I don't know. Most people that are the number two I won't get into that, but eventually maybe we'll talk more about that. But so China's involved as well. And as part of its Belt and Road Initiative, China has courted both Armenia and Azerbaijan. And in this conflict, Beijing will have to walk a diplomatic tightrope. I read through this article, and China's given a lot of money to Azerbaijan. Here's Xi Jinping, referred to as president, but I think he has a different actual title. I'll look it up and refer to him that way in the future. Shaking hands with Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev. And this is interesting. I just noticed this. They're shaking hands on April 24th, 2019. Some will say that's a coincidence. But that actually gives me a lot of information. I don't believe in coincidences, but this meeting, and that's a year ago this past April 24th is the holiday, or the day that commemorates the beginning of the Armenian genocide. So that's a day that Armenian communities, whether it's in Armenia or in other parts of the world where there are large Armenian populations, like Glendale, California, Los Angeles, California, Armenian schools take the day off, businesses close, and the national flags are flown on cars everywhere, because that is the day, one day a year, they actually rally outside the Turkish embassy in downtown Los Angeles. I went a couple years ago. I actually have footage of it. At some point I'll show it. So, Xi Jinping meeting with the Azeri president. But this article does talk about how, I'll move on to this link here, how China has, and this is an older article. This is from like 9 years ago. Armenia's outsized footprint in Asia brings home the benefits of globalization. So getting back to China, China's idea is to reach out into the world and have influence. And they have this thing called the Belt and Road Initiative, and they have Confucius Institutes that they set up. And it's to bring Chinese culture into these other countries, and not just Chinese culture, but, well, not ancient Chinese culture, because they went through a cultural revolution. So it's not ancient Chinese culture. It's modern, current Chinese culture. It's not just bringing Chinese language and culture, but it's bringing influence into the world. And so they see Armenia as a strategic point. So I did read some of this. I'm not going to belabor that, but I'm telling you, this frickin' part of the world here, this is how, right over here is where World War I started, in a little conflict over here, former Yugoslavia, current day Serbia. Archduke Franz Ferdinand is assassinated, and then all these big world powers pile on. And then a few miles east of this region, or west of this region, not on this map, is where World War II began, when one country invaded another country and then the rest of the world got involved. So not far to their east, we have a conflict brewing, an age-old conflict that involves the biggest powers in the world. So that's the reason I'm doing this whole podcast, is to get your attention. Christians out there, pay attention to what's going on. Look around. This is the only Christian nation right here, Armenia, and Nagorno-Karabakh. Georgia, this area that's grayed here, is another Christian nation. So this is a little pocket. These are Muslim nations. Russia is secular, used to be a Christian nation, and with the Bolsheviks, they became basically an atheist nation. You got Israel down here as the only Jewish nation, surrounded by, these are all Abrahamic religions. So Abraham, we'll get into this as well, his journey was down here, and Mount Ararat's over here, and the Apostle Paul journeyed through here. So this is the part of the world Christians need to be paying attention to, not just for our own history, but for modern day and the future. So let me move back to Trump. This is a rally. I'll drop the volume. This was yesterday, or day before. No, this is yesterday, Sunday. So President Trump was in Newport Beach, California, and had a fundraiser or something. And look at this. Thousands of Armenians have shown up. And the things they're chanting, they're saying, "Stop the Hitler of Turkey. Stop the Hitler of Turkey. No more genocide. No more genocide." They are looking at this part of the world and seeing Turkey tried to massacre all the Armenians. This all used to be Armenia. Now there's this little sliver of Armenians. Turkey's goal was to unite with Azerbaijan because they're ethnic Turks as well, so that this whole region would have been a Turkish utopia, or pan-Turanism is the term for it. But at the end of the war, they had to stop, and some Christians survived. Right? They were massacring Christians, not just Armenians. But they survived. And now with the state of the world, I don't know, they're raising their head again. Turkey's supplying military arsenal and training, and maybe some bodies, some commanders. Syria has been sending some mercenaries. So the Armenians, the rally held in OC, Armenian community calling on President Trump to sanction Turkey. So that's another thing they were chanting: sanction Azerbaijan, sanction Turkey. Sanctions, I don't know if that's the answer, but an executive order to recognize Nagorno-Karabakh as an independent sovereign state without sending boots or fighter jets or a UN resolution, just an executive order by the President of the United States. Getting back to that, this is the day of the conflict. September 27 is when this conflict, this recent flash of hostilities, Azerbaijan saying, let's just get rid of these Armenians once and for all and do it now. Trump says U.S. will seek to stop violence between Armenia and Azerbaijan. This is from Reuters. President Donald Trump said on Sunday, this is back 2 weeks ago, that the United States would seek to stop violence which has ignited between Armenia and Azerbaijan, two former Soviet republics which fought a war in the 1990s. We're looking at it very strongly, the president said in a Sunday evening press briefing. We have a lot of good relationships in that area. We'll see if we can stop it. All right, so back to this article, it said Trump's silence on Nagorno-Karabakh weighs on Armenian American voters. So he wasn't silent. He spoke up. But I'm going to read some of this article to conclude here. He didn't turn against Turkey, I think, is the big the contention, that his silence, because Joe Biden said, we'll get back to that. What Joe Biden said, he's urging Trump, tell Azerbaijan that it will not tolerate its efforts to impose a military solution to this conflict. And that's the right position. You know, this candidate for president has it right. His people have drafted, it's the right position. But Trump doesn't like being told what to do, especially by his opponent, I would say. But let me just read this. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden issued a statement on September 29th, 2 days after the fighting erupted. So it was the day after Trump said they need to stop. But Biden insists on a ceasefire and to condemn Turkey's interference. While Trump joined a statement with France and Russia. So the United States, France, and Russia are part of the Minsk group, which are they're kind of in charge of this region of the world to keep an eye on it. And so because Russia's right there, they're the one issuing these ceasefire notices, but the United States is involved. So while Trump joined a statement with France and Russia to call for an end to the fighting, he refrained from calling out Turkey as interfering in the conflict. Trump has cultivated a relationship with Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. We're encouraged by VP Biden calling out Turkey's interference. Turkey is pouring fuel on the fire, said Aram Hamparian, executive director of the Armenian National Committee of America, ANCA. Yep. We have yet to see that from President Trump, and that's certainly something that many Armenians around the country are taking notice of. The issue is unlikely to turn the presidential race, but it does have 2020 implications. The largest Armenian communities are in Los Angeles, New York, and Boston, Democratic cities in safe states for Biden. Yet there are also significant communities in key swing states, about 50,000 in Michigan, 35,000 in Florida, 30,000 in Pennsylvania, and 10,000 in Wisconsin. Trump narrowly won these states in 2016 with a difference of 1.2% of the vote or less. As a tight-knit Christian community, Armenian Americans are more likely to vote on issues rather than party. And that's true. This is a critical issue. And whoever the Armenians perceive as will be the best, who's better for Armenia and Armenians, Trump or Biden, that's going to be at the forefront. And these numbers I actually didn't realize. Like, these are swing states. And these are, Armenians tend to be a united front. This is a shared culture, a shared history, a shared trauma. And if word goes out, we're voting this way, it very well could be all of these votes going, or the majority of these votes going one direction. So let me continue, and then we'll wrap this up. As a tight-knit Christian community, Armenian Americans are more likely to vote on issues rather than partying. On top of domestic concerns, they weigh candidates based on their recognition of the 1915 Armenian genocide at the hands of Turkey. Let me interject here. Every president for the last 3-4 decades has said they will recognize the Armenian genocide. Tomorrow's episode, we'll talk more about that. So Biden, if he says I'll recognize the Armenian genocide, that's what every president has said. And to date, none of them have carried through on their promise. They've promised ahead of time, they get elected, and then they don't. So don't be fooled again, Armenians. If Biden makes that promise, I don't know if he has, but I mean, Trump made that promise. He's still in office. We'll see. A position no president has taken out of concern for relations with Ankara, that's the capital of Turkey, support for religious freedom, and positive relations with their historic homeland. Their arrival in the U.S. has come in waves of escaping massacres against their people, the Hamidian massacres of the 1890s by the Ottoman Turks, and the Armenian genocide of the early 20th century. More Armenians came to the U.S. in the late 1980s, ahead of the fall of the Soviet Union and outbreak of war between the young nations of Armenia and Azerbaijan, with atrocities committed on both sides and centered around the contested territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. All right, I'm going to finish with these couple of paragraphs. Historically, our community has strong ties to the Republican community, especially during the Cold War, because the Republicans really stood against communism and gave the Armenians the vision and the inspiration that Armenia could be independent of the Soviet Union, said Ara Chalian, who serves on the national board of the ENCA, but has served as the local committee chair in Philadelphia. But the younger Armenian community seemed to be more strongly tied to the Democratic Party. The outbreak of violence last month in Nagorno-Karabakh has mobilized the community, who feel a deep connection and responsibility to advocate for the protection of Armenia and Armenians living in the conflict zone. Preserving the Armenian state is going to be paramount, and right now I think you can make the case very easily that the Armenian homeland is being threatened with another genocide, said Tanyel Koshajian, editor of Flarmenians. I'll look into that. I think this is going to be the most important issue for Armenian Americans going into November. All right. So who's better? That's the question. Who is better? Who do Armenians think is better? Who do we as Christians think is better? All right. Now, subscribe and share, and come back tomorrow. We're going to dive deeper into this.